I was once hired to house sit for a friend of the family who was going away for a week. In this case, I should call it Mansion Sid because the family was absolutely loaded, and the mansion sat on the rich side of town in front of a huge lake. I was 21, and it just seemed like a cool job to have for a week. The family's one rule was to throw no parties and have no more than 2 guests at any time, which even that I thought was generous of them. The father's name was Benjamin, and that's the only name you'll need to know. Ben left me a list of things to keep track of every night, which included feeding the 2 cats and 2 parrots, watering the plants, among other things that won't contribute much to the story. The house was a half hour from my home, so instead of just driving there and back every day, I opted to sleep in one of the guest bedrooms, which they offered to me. After the first day, I got there very late, so it was a short one that got me kind of warmed up for what to expect in the week ahead. After doing the insignificant amount of morning chores, I hopped into the pool they had in the backyard. The pool literally overlooked a gorgeous tranquil lake, and even with the thought of getting to enjoy this unbelievable house for a week, I was still incredibly jealous. As I was in the pool, I noticed, through the giant floor-to-ceiling windows of the living room, somebody walking inside. I jumped out of the pool, freaking out. I ran to grab a towel and dry myself for a second before storming inside, yelling, "Excuse me." I didn't see anyone in the living room, so I entered the kitchen. There was a fairly large Hispanic woman who looked to be about 35 to 40. She was just standing there as if waiting for me. I asked her who she was and why she was here, while trying to keep myself composed and confident. She said in a thick accent that she was the maid who came every day to clean the floors and stuff. She introduced herself as Eliza. I instantly felt a sense of relief and introduced myself as Mike, the guy who was house sitting for the week. She spoke in as few words as possible. I don't think her English was too good, but she basically said she was going to clean the floors in the kitchen and living room. I said that was completely fine and let her do her thing. I asked her how she got into the house, and she said she had her own copy of the key. So, that was that. I went back out to the pool for a little longer to let her do her thing. When I got out of the pool, I dried up and took a shower. After my shower, I fed the animals again. The parrots were easier than the cats, surprisingly. I didn't see the maid again, but I didn't really want to get in her way and have awkward small talk with someone who could barely speak English. Anyway, I had a couple of friends over that night because everyone was eager to see the place. But I respected their rules of only 2 guests at a time. I gave them the best tour I could, and then we kind of just chilled in the game room. They had air hockey and a pool table, and we drank a little bit. When I told my friends about the cleaning lady scaring the hell out of me, they both found it insanely suspicious. Like, why wouldn't Ben have told me about the cleaning lady? They brought up a good point, so I shot Ben a text asking about the cleaning lady. He didn't answer right away, and I didn't want to call because my friends wanted to sleep over, but I didn't want to push it. I had no idea if they had cameras in the house or not, so they left, and quickly after, I started getting myself ready to lay down in bed. At some point, I got a text back from Ben apologizing for taking so long and then asking, "What cleaning lady?" with 2 question marks and an exclamation point. I typed back, "Eliza, the Hispanic woman who came by and claimed she was the cleaning lady." That's when Ben called me with a concerned voice. He got more details from me after telling me there was no cleaning lady. That was the whole reason they hired me. I felt like I had been taken for a fool, but more importantly, I was terrified that I may not have been in that house alone at that very moment. Ben told me to stay put in a bedroom and that he'd call the police for me. So, we hung up, and I waited in the room for the police to arrive. I had been on FaceTime when the police arrived, so he could also talk to them. We all looked through the house together from top to bottom, and we didn't see anyone. I told Ben the lady said she had a spare key, but he said he was confident that was a lie because they never made any spare keys. He was confident she simply snuck in when I was in the pool or outside in general. After we were sure there was no one in the house, the police left, but they made sure I locked all the doors and windows before they did. I spoke with Ben a little longer. He was very comforting and asked me to just hold down the fort and call the police if anything else should happen. We hung up, and I went to bed. I locked the door, of course. I left the air conditioner off so I could hear any potential noises from outside the room. As I lay awake, subconsciously waiting for a noise, I heard one from under the bed. It sounded like a squeak on the wood floor. I hopped out of bed and looked under it. There were two people hiding underneath. One was the lady from earlier, Eliza, and the other was some man, probably 10 years older than her, with his hand over her mouth. They both locked eyes with me. I screamed and ran for the door. The moment it took me to unlock the door and then open and shut it was more than I was comfortable with. As I did, I heard them crawling out from under the bed. I ran outside to my car without my shoes and drove down the street. When I called the police and then called Ben again, I waited for police cars to pass, and then I followed them. We once again searched the whole house and found no one. This time, I didn't stick around for the night. Ben told me to go home and stay safe. The family booked a flight back home the next day, cutting their vacation short. The intruders were never identified. All that can be speculated is they walked in through the front door while I was in the pool because I didn't lock the door, and they somehow knew the family would be gone. No further information is known.